Dear Diary, I'm sitting here tonight with a strange mix of emotions. My heart feels heavier than it has in a long time. I'm confused, hurt, and honestly, I don't know where to go from here. I thought I was ready for what happened. I thought it would be one of those moments I'd look back on with warmth and love. Instead, it's left me feeling small, confused, heartbroken, and questioning everything about myself, my relationship, and my expectations. I'm 23 years old, and until a few nights ago, I was a virgin. My virginity wasn't tied to anything external, no religious rules, no cultural expectations. It was just something I chose to hold on to because it felt important to me. It was mine, something personal and precious that I chose to save for someone I deeply loved, someone who would truly understand how vulnerable and significant that moment would be for me. For as long as I can remember, I've told myself that when I finally gave it away, it would be to someone I trusted deeply, someone who would make me feel loved, safe, and cherished. For almost 2 years now, I have been with my boyfriend. He is the kind of person who makes me laugh when I'm having a bad day, who supports my goals and dreams, and whom, up until recently, I thought understood me on a deep emotional level. From the very start of our relationship, he knew where I stood. I was honest about my feelings and why I wanted to wait. He was always supportive. One of the reasons I fell for him was his patience. He never pressured me or pushed me to do anything I wasn't ready for, and he always said the right things like how that day would be all about me, how he wanted it to be special for me. And I believed him. I trusted him. Hearing those words gave me so much reassurance. I felt like I was with someone who truly understood me and cared about my comfort. But now, after everything that happened, I'm left wondering if I misread everything. Or worse, if I set myself up for disappointment by expecting too much. For weeks, I had been thinking about taking that next step. It was not an easy decision for me. Losing my virginity felt like crossing a threshold I couldn't come back from. I wanted to be sure, not just of him, but also of myself, my readiness, my emotions, everything. Finally, after a lot of reflection, I decided I was ready. It felt like the right time. I wanted to share this with him, with someone I loved. I thought I was prepared for the physical and emotional intensity of the experience. A few nights ago, we were at his apartment, watching one of our favorite movies. It was cozy, intimate, and comfortable. At some point, I turned to him and said, "I think I'm ready." I'll never forget the way his face lit up, this mix of excitement and nervousness. He kissed me, and in that moment, I thought, this is it. This is how it's supposed to feel. But looking back now, I realize I had no idea what was coming. From the very beginning, something felt wrong. Maybe not wrong, exactly, but definitely not right. I had always imagined my first time being filled with tenderness, with words of reassurance and loving touches. I thought he would take his time, checking in with me, making sure I felt safe and comfortable. Instead, it felt rushed, almost mechanical. He didn't treat it like the special, one-of-a-kind moment I had built up in my mind. It was like he didn't realize this was a big deal for me. I always had this idea that I'd want my first time to be romantic and gentle. But he honestly treated it as if we had done it a million times and like it was any other day. He never checked in on me, reassured me, comforted me, or asked me if I was okay at any point. At one point, I even asked him if he could tell me sweet things, say something nice, something comforting, but he didn't. I don't even think he heard me, or maybe he did, and he just didn't know what to say. That was so emotionally taxing and disappointing for me. The physical part of it was painful. I had expected some discomfort, sure. I'd read enough and talk to friends to know that the first time might not be the most pleasurable experience. But this was worse than I had imagined. It hurt, and he didn't seem to notice. He didn't stop to check if I was okay. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He just kept going and going, caught up in his own experience. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore. I told him to stop. I felt so vulnerable and lonely that I could not keep going anymore. I turned away from him, trying to hide the tears streaming down my face. I didn't want him to see me like that. I didn't want to make him feel guilty or ruin the moment for him, even though the moment already felt ruined for me. The next morning, I realized I had bled. I hadn't noticed it the night before because I was too caught up in my emotions. Seeing that just brought back all the pain and disappointment I'd felt. My boyfriend texted me later that day, asking if something was wrong. Part of me didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it or seem overly critical. But the other part of me couldn't keep it inside. I had to tell him how I felt. When I finally opened up, he was apologetic. He said he felt bad for not being more attentive, for not checking in on me. But then he said something that stuck with me in the worst way. "I'm sorry, I just couldn't focus on anything. You were making me feel really good, and it was hard to talk." Was that supposed to make me feel better? Was that supposed to flatter me? Because it didn't. If anything, it made me feel even worse, like I was used, like I was just a tool for his pleasure, like my feelings and my experience didn't matter as much as his. The past few days have been a blur of emotions. I've been replaying everything in my head, wondering where it all went wrong. Did I expect too much? Was I being too idealistic? Or did he just not understand how important this was to me? I've always believed that sex is more than just a physical act. It's emotional, vulnerable, and deeply personal. It's about connection and trust. And yet, that night, I felt none of those things. I felt alone, invisible, and deeply hurt. Now, the thought of having sex again makes me anxious. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I even want to. This experience has forced me to confront so many questions about my relationship, my expectations, and myself. What does it mean to truly trust someone? How do you reconcile love and disappointment? I love my boyfriend, I really do. He's been kind and supportive in so many other ways. But this moment feels like a crack in our foundation, and I don't know how to fix it. I've also been questioning myself. Was I too naive? Did I romanticize this moment to the point where no reality could ever live up to my expectations? Or was I right to want more? To want some thoughtfulness, tenderness, patience, and care from him? I'm still trying to process everything. I'm journaling, reflecting, and giving myself space for my boyfriend and permission to feel everything: anger, sadness, confusion. I will try to have a more open conversation with my boyfriend. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I'm holding on to hope. Hope that intimacy can feel safe and beautiful again. I've also started thinking about other people's stories, wondering if anyone I know has gone through something similar. How do other people deal with disappointment in moments that are supposed to feel magical? It feels like no one really talks about the letdowns, the times when reality doesn't match the dream. I've been scrolling through forums, looking for stories like mine, hoping for some kind of reassurance that I'm not alone in this. Losing my virginity was supposed to be a deeply personal experience. For years, I envisioned what it would be like, replaying scenarios in my mind, imagining the love, the connection, the sense of being fully seen and cherished. But now, I just feel hurt and disappointed that it did not go the way I had always hoped. At all. It is almost as if the dream I had held on to for so long has been shattered, leaving me with this emptiness I don't know how to fill. I feel so alone. I wonder if I'll ever be able to look back on this without feeling a pang of regret. Maybe it'll take time. Maybe it'll take healing, not just with my boyfriend, but also with myself. I need to forgive myself for having expectations. I need to remind myself that it's okay to feel hurt and let down. My feelings are valid, and I deserve to feel seen, heard, and valued in every intimate moment, not just the first one. For now, all I can do is take it one day at a time. I don't have all the answers, and I might not for a while. But I'm determined to learn from this, to grow, and to figure out what I need to feel whole again. Whether that means working things out with my boyfriend or finding a new path entirely, I hope I come out of this stronger. I just wanted to write about it because I have no one to talk to about it. Until tomorrow. Diary sealed.
Dear Diary,